Are you ready?
Good morning, как дела, привет. Bienvenidos to The Art of Comics. I'm your host, Andres Salazar. And a lot of times, we don't. I'm going to move this camera over. I'm just going to bump on. How about that? See my big old face. A lot of times we talk about comics, talk about art. We don't really talk about prose books much. I think I've done a couple things, but very rarely. But as you know, the title of the video kind of spoils it. We're going to talk about Get the Picture, the latest book by Bianca Bosker. Now, Bianca Bosker previously wrote a book I did not read called Cork Dork, which is the same kind of treatise where she goes into a very tight-knit kind of like community and uncovers that world, right? Kind of pulls back the curtain on what's going on, what that world is like. And I had no real interest in that. But as you guys know, I've been doing a painting a la these two pieces, which are just about done. You can get them on my website. Or you can also come here to Ventura, California, a solo gallery show, May the 3rd. That's right, May the 3rd. I'm going to be here. We'll have the opening. It's going to be the whole month of May. May the 3rd is the opening, and then the 4th, 5th, and then the other weekends of May, I will have the gallery open there to check out the original art. So, if you're local, that'd be great. You can fly in. If you fly in to see this work, I'll give you a freaking discount on that. I'll give you the deal. Okay. Get the picture. First, let me say, this was extremely freaking fun to read. This was charming. It is intelligent. Bianca, not only do we understand about her dedication of research, I mean, you can clearly see that she really wants to involve herself in the research of this world. I don't know how she did the cork dork with the wine, but she must have drank a lot. Because she is going through all the different facets of what we'll call the art world into understanding art, right? Figurative, representational stuff, abstract, what have you, performance. And I found it very engaging that she really brings it. Like, I don't even know how she did some of the things she did as far as like getting a job as a security guard at the Guggenheim Museum, become a gallerist, an assistant to a gallerist, an assistant to an artist. She like got in these jobs, which people would die for. But assuming because of her book, she was able to get into these jobs and kind of really see how that is. And let me tell you, it's not only interesting what she learns about, but it's also fascinating to see how she does it and the hoops and the machinations that she has to kind of like get the story, uncover the truth. And we'll just talk a little bit about it and like just go through what my thoughts were on it. Other than I loved it. I read it in a week, which for me is pretty quick because I have a lot of stuff going on. But every time I could, I found time to read this book. And if you saw the video, the previous video to this, where I talked to Nathaniel in the car as we drive to the LA art show, we talk about this book. We don't mention the book directly, maybe we do, but we're talking about this book because we both read it together. So if you want to learn more about our thoughts on some specifics to this, go check that video out. It's long, but check it out. Okay. She starts off her journey learning about the machine of a gallery and how an art gallery works. Now, I should say that there is not just one monolithic art world, but there are little like pockets of an art world. And this one specifically is talking about kind of high-end art in New York, which is kind of like the spot, right? There's a couple places, London, LA to a degree, but New York is like, if not the spot, one of the spots of the world in the art scene. And she learns about the galleries there in Chelsea, Tribeca, that whole kind of like area, Lower East Side. And she gets in with a gallerist named Jack, and she kind of like learns from him about how to hang, how to paint a wall, how to stretch canvas, all these things. And he's a bit of an antagonist because he's very withholding, not only the financial information, which you would understand, but also other kind of things, and his contacts and his ability to share with him is limited because of his perhaps just knowing that whatever she puts in this book could affect him and his business. But that's kind of, it's interesting because we start there and she really sees how the world is a difficult world to get into. That the art world is really this, for lack of a better term, an elitist cabal of rich people who decide amongst themselves what is good and what is bad and who should own it. And so there's this idea of, I got the money to buy this painting. Well, if I'm a serious artist, the money's not enough. We need to know what kind of person you are. What other work do you have? What other art do you collect? And who would see this art? If you just sell it to Grandma Jones and it's in her bedroom and no one ever sees it, that doesn't help you. It doesn't help your career. You want it to go somewhere that other people will see it, that it'll be prized in their collection amongst other work of similar or higher quality stuff to elevate yours. So it's all about like positioning yourself as an artist and as a gallerist, position yourself to elevate your cachet, elevate the prices of your work, things like that. It's fascinating to learn about how just the idea of money is kind of gauche. It's kind of like, oh goodness, that's like not something that, we don't want to talk about, that kind of thing. So she did that for months, maybe 6 months, maybe even more, working for him, doing openings, reaching out to collectors, all those kind of tasks. But the relationship between her and Jack, the owner of the gallery, was strained, and he seemed a bit of a bully, or at least kind of a jerk to her in some ways. And she was very humble, and she took it. She took the lickings. She kept on ticking. But eventually, the relationship dissolved, and she left. She then found another gallery to work with. And then we go into the next chapter where she does the art show scene, which is kind of a touring, circus that you go to, just like Comic-Cons, right? Just like comic conventions. You grab your stuff, you head on the road, and you go do some cons, and you sell some work. As well as you have your comic book shop, maybe, right? If you're a store. And the same thing. These galleries have their brick and mortar gallery, but they also will do some shows. Some will do a lot of shows, some will just do the big ones. So she goes to Art Basel, Miami, and Basel or Basel. I think it's Basel, not Basel. I think it's Basel. She goes to Basel in Miami, which is this, it's like Comic-Con. It's like a massive week-long art show. There's all this kind of craziness. You have art collectors who bring their art with them. There's people who travel with their art collection. Rent a house or a warehouse to then hang their private collection of art and then invite other collectors and people to come see it. And I found that freaking fascinating, where you basically have a private museum that you own, that you open to certain people. And that is freaking wild and also kind of freaking cool. It's like she compares it to like baseball trading cards, where kids would, go to school and show their baseball cards. And it's kind of like the same type of thing, which I thought was pretty funny. So, and she shares the debauchery element to that world as far as just the craziness of going to these conventions, trying to sell these pieces, and all the stuff that goes along with that world, right? The excitement and the danger and all that. Then she transfers into becoming an art assistant. Her whole idea is to get the picture, meaning to understand what makes art art, what makes good art good, and for her to be able to see that and see the difference and have that personal experience with artwork. And that was probably the most, no, it wasn't the most exciting because I really liked seeing about the world too and the culture. But, looking at a piece of art and saying, okay, is this good or not? Why? And we talk a lot here on the channel of the principles of design, the elements of art, which are, line, shape, form, color, texture, pattern, those kind of things, right? Value, so forth. So we talk about what formally are used to make art, but what something is considered good or not, whether they use those tools effectively. Usually that's kind of what if you use those tools effectively, that's good art. But there's another element to it, which is like what just hits you, what emotionally, sucks you in or gets you excited. And talking to these different collectors and people who love art, they do get very emotional about it. It's like, I can't stop thinking about this art piece. I want this piece of art. And I want it by hell or high water, and I'm going to get this piece of art because it just grabs me and I can't stop thinking about it. And I've never been in that situation. I've never been where I love something so much I can't stop thinking about a piece of artwork. But I'm also not an art collector. I make art, but I don't go seek out art to the point of I'm going to go throw down some bones for it. So, but that mystified me. It was fascinating. I was intrigued by that whole idea of being so enraptured by the art. And she kind of goes on this personal journey with an artist. And we see from the artist's perspective what it's like to make money, right? And how to survive on art if you can. Most do not. Most have a day job, some other way to make a steady income with benefits of some sort to support a family or a spouse. So doing the art full time, all the time, is very few can do that. And that's just the way it is. So, how does that survive? If you do have a great show, what does that do for you? And there is some strategy on, okay, what's the next step? Do you want to sell all your work or do you just want to sell some of your work? If you sell all your work now, do you start raising your prices? Do you go to a different gallery? Do you bump up? How do you navigate this ladder to increase value? Not only for your work, but also as a person. So that was a great chapter. That was interesting. And then lastly, we go to working as a guard at the Guggenheim Museum in New York. And that, again, is her learning about not only how museums work, but also seeing things, right? And seeing the art, being with the art all day long, and being able to kind of distinguish what is good about the art or what is kind of compelling. The book was freaking good, dude. The book was good. It doesn't, I would say, people who are into comics, which are the most of you are, this might not be a home run, but I think you'd find it interesting. There are some similarities to the comic book world and comic book original art world. I used to be a comic book dealer for a short time, where I'd get original artwork and I would sell it to people. So some of this is similar to that, although the scale is completely different. But those of you who, I just think it's a good book. It's very fascinating. So there you go. That's my review. Now, you want to see some of this stuff? You want to see some of my work that I do? Go check out my Patreon on the link below. Also, I have a website where you can actually purchase them, and that is andressalazarart.com. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. And next up, I think we'll talk about Zombies vs. Robots by Ashley Wood and Chris Ryle, which I really like. So we'll do that next. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye, guys.